Okay, well, all right. Welcome to the coffee break. This is episode number 82. Thank you very much for joining. We are very, very close to Autodesk University, and there's lots of things going on at Autodesk and preparing for that. I hope that some of you will go there. It'll be very nice to meet you all if you're going. And as usual, the coffee break is a very open space for any kind of questions or projects that you are working on. So let me open up to you if you have any questions or topics or any projects that you are working on that you'd like to share. I know some people here that are new, so if you haven't never been here before, so maybe your chance to introduce yourself, see what, share what you are working with. Yeah, let me open up for you. Again, cameras, open up your camera, open up your microphone, and yeah, what's interesting going on? I already started with AU because that's the highest topic from our side. And Dennis and I were preparing lots of topics. We are going to present a few things at AU. I think you're presenting one as well, right, Dennis? Which one are you going to present?
Yeah, we'll be presenting something around data exchange and creating connectors, and one around getting started with plugin development for 3ds Max.
Oh, cool. Oh, is that desktop development?
Yes,
Oh.
but I will be touching also design automation for 3ds Max. So
Yeah.
yes and no.
Both, right? So it's
Yeah.
desktop API, but you can use on the cloud, right?
Yes.
Interesting. Yeah. Looks cool. Or sounds promising. What else are we working on? This week we're also hosting the bootcamp. So if you have a colleague or someone else, or maybe even you that you're working on something on getting started with APS, that's a good chance to get started. I know that's already going on the bootcamp, but we are recording. So later we're going to share share the recordings later. I think we remove it from here because it's already running. But soon we'll be sharing the recording like we did before. So the bootcamp runs with the getting started tutorial. And I know that João is presenting and Dennis are also presenting.
Yeah, also join me tomorrow. I will be presenting the Node.js track for design automation.
Cool. Yeah.
So we can touch and see which track actually we can tackle. Could be like use the Revit engine, AutoCAD engine, Inventor, or 3ds Max.
Yeah.
And also as a sort of like a bonus, how to run Dynamo on design automation.
Oh, you're brave. Are you talking about Dynamo?
I want to provide as a bonus. I
Yeah,
mentioned
cool.
that.
Okay.
See the
So that will be
audience.
exciting. Yeah,
Yeah.
that will be exciting.
I was wondering about the accelerator, the remote accelerator next week, if they're so signed up for it, but I'm not quite sure when we're gonna get feedback if we were accepted or not into it.
Luckily, João is here. And are you still managing that room?
Sorry, could you repeat, please?
Managing registrations for the accelerator.
Oh yeah, we have the list of attendees of people for that. Did you sign up? Did
Yes.
you receive any mail? All right.
Yeah, well, I received some tickets, some invitations for it.
What's the name of your company?
Build on data.
Build on data. Let me take a look, and yeah, can you send me an email on that, please? So
Yeah, well, I just was wondering if we get another feedback because we discussed like a few months ago where it said that you would take a look at it and then say if you would join or not. But I got the tickets for it right away, so I was just wondering about the process.
Yeah, so you should.
Okay.
Yeah, so I was just saying that you should receive some communication. If not, we're going to make sure that you get it. But on the Friday before the event, we send details on how to actually join. Yeah, So John, please review Simon's registration, see if anything is missing there, and confirm if needed. Yeah.
On it.
Cool. So Simon, what are you planning to work on?
Well, we're working on optimization of cable tray installation in large-scale construction sites, and we've already did a prototype using Navisworks API, and now we need more functionality for better collaboration between different subcontractors on the construction side. And yeah, we've leveraged in Navisworks. We extracted some data from cable trays and built a graph model on the cable trays and use that for calculating loads on cable trays and finding optimal routes for trays. And I actually had another question we were discussing with a partner of us, and they were a bit concerned about the whole hosting cloud thing with the APS bucket. I was wondering if there's like an option to have it like a server in Europe, or if there's any on-premises, which I don't think it is, but just wondering about that.
So before we get there, right? So you said that you are working cable tray with Navis, but for next week, are you planning to use Viewer?
No. Yeah, Viewer. I'm not gonna use it.
Okay, cool. Yeah, just confirm, right? Because as of now, we still don't have Navis engine support on design automation. So I was curious, are you planning? Yeah, but if you're using Viewer, yeah, that should be fine. That's interesting.
We're really more interested in the API of the Viewer and the 3JS itself, because it gives more options on how to interact.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, so to your question, right? Yes, you can host your data in Europe. We have two options, US and Europe. So just remember that when you create the bucket, you specify the region where your file will be hosted. And whenever you translate the file to be viewed, you can also specify the region where the translation will live. So you can have, you choose there. So in your case would be Europe for both. And the second thing I would say is, if your customer is really concerned, right? Sometimes they're concerned about where the data lives or where the data is just a transient. So you can upload your file to a bucket, translate, and then go back and delete the file because you already have the translation, right? So once the translation is done, you can delete the original seed file, the original file, the binary.
Then you only have your file left.
Yes, then you only have the translated file, right, on our system.
What if you want to query certain stuff?
Yeah, the data is there. So the data in the viewables are there, right? So if you're viewing or querying the data, you don't need the original file anymore, right? So I'm saying that because some customers are somehow concerned about that. So one way to isn't that concern and reduce the friction is to delete the original seed file, right? So you just keep the translated, which contains the viewables and the metadata.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah. Well, so someone was raising hand. I think it was Jacob.
Yeah, that was me.
Yeah.
I have a question for the boot camp for tomorrow. Will the Node.js be in tandem with the .NET?
Yes, so there are two parallel tracks, one taught in .NET, another one in Node.js. So I'm basically teaching Node.js one. Yes. So
will you be doing both sessions, or will you just be doing the US side at 11 to 6 EST?
Yeah, I will be doing only the US and only the Node.js, because Node.js and .NET are in parallel track. But you're right, we have US and Europe one.
So Jacob, you can choose either Europe or America's time zone, right? And on each time zone, you can choose the language. So there are four different sessions, right? Two in Europe, two in Americas, in Node and .NET. So you choose one. But remember, we record everything. So later we'll be sharing those recordings if you want to see how we did it in .NET. So yeah.
Okay. I was just curious whether he was presenting for the one in Europe because I was in that one this morning at 4 a.m. EST. So, but yeah, I've been at every one of them. They've been really helpful. So
Yeah. So Dennis is presenting Americas. I think Adam and someone else is presenting Europe. I think it's Cyril presenting Node. I don't remember exactly.
No,
Adam is
Madhuka.
here. Oh, Madhukar is doing Node, and you are doing .NET.
No. Madhukar is doing .NET. I'm just helping him.
And who's doing Node.js then? Would you know? I don't know. Yeah.
I'm
Anyway,
aware.
yeah. Anyway, we have two options in each time zone. Yeah.
do you know if they'll be doing the Dynamo preview that you're gonna handle?
So Dennis has been very brave there doing that on his session, right? But no, I think no, right? So
I'm not
Dennis
going
is
to do
causing
that
us a lot
for
of troubles.
.NET, but I try to
Yeah.
finish early and then advise everyone to jump on Dennis' session.
Yeah, that
So
could be
everybody
bit.
can see the Dynamo one.
So Dennis, which is a good idea, right? We should probably record yours and have a separate piece of your recording with Dynamo so you can share with others, right? Now that you raise the
Yeah.
bar for all of us.
Yeah, this was my idea, is basically explain you the tutorial as it is, and then sort of at the end, a bonus, a very
Yeah.
quick kind of overview, and show you that it's not a big deal once you know how to do it for Revit, how actually to run the Dynamo one.
But Jacob,
So-
are you interested in Dynamo?
I was actually going to piggyback off that question. Does this mean that we're going to actually be able to manipulate the model all like once it's in the viewer, like just by being able to run Dynamo scripts?
Not really. You see, the design automation itself is something like running in the cloud. So it allows you to basically run the Revit file, run a Dynamo script over the Revit file. Now, how you are going to link it to the viewer, it's another story. This is another part, perhaps a more complex project where actually you can have in the viewer, translate and load the model, and after that kind of do some manipulation, which translates into a Dynamo script that will run in design automation and show you the results. Well, you see, it's too many kind of complex steps. I'm presenting just the parts that will allow you to run the script in design automation over design. The workflow that you are mentioning is a more complex. I know that a lot of people want something like that, but it will be best case scenario a sample that will show you how to do. Kind of to explain it, there are a lot of complexity there.
So, Jacob, there is a call for feedback with this early preview of how to run Dynamo with design automation, right? You can join today and see how it works, get the bundle, run it on your side. We are really looking for feedback, so we see at what kind of workflows you're planning to support. So feedback is really important there. So later we are going to really support that in a more production environment. So yes, I shared the link for the call for feedback. Yeah, take a look at that.
Thank you.
And again, I was just curious, you were saying that you want to use Dynamo with Viewer, right? So anything else?
So I've been just coming to these meetings just to kind of learn a little bit more about how APS works. We're planning on using the viewer and some of the capabilities for our BIM apps that we're creating.
Mhm.
And I've just been here to try to gather notes for the team. But yeah, I was just curious whether we were able to actually manipulate the model by using Dynamo, and that would have been like if like you needed to move the wall or something like that, like if you could do that within the viewer, that would be insane.
Yeah.
So that's why
So,
I was
yeah.
just curious.
Yeah, you can do that, but it's design automation, right? Meaning that it's a server side thing. It's not a visual thing yet, right? So this first call for feedback is really on the server side. So it's you just manipulate the file. So you open an RVT, manipulate it and save it back in summary, right? But yeah, it's a backend kind of thing.
Just a quick kind of 1 minute observation here. In order to change a Revit file, you need a Revit engine because there are a lot of parameters there. That wall to be moved, you have to move it along with the windows, with the doors and things like that that are connected. It's not just a geometry that you are moving. And this is why in the end, willingly or not, you have to go back into Revit engine and move it by the Revit engine. Now, the very first thing that you could do, let's say that you are manipulating the geometry in the viewer, and then basically record the steps that you are doing and translate that into a Revit API. And of course, an easier way, if you could translate the very same manipulation into DynamoScript. And once you have this kind of manipulation, basically you are playing it in the Revit. And this kind of workflow Dynamo and Design Automation will allow you to do something like remotely. So you don't have a Revit, you're just loading the file in the viewer, doing the manipulation, and then basically triggering to do that manipulations in the Revit or on the Revit engine. Yeah. So this is the workflow.
Cool. Okay, so let me move to Jonathan because I just he had his hand raised. Jonathan, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Good. So 2 questions. One to follow up the design automation Dynamo feedback request. Since it's design automation, will it cost us cloud credits or flex tokens depending on your region?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So any process is like half a credit for it's like, sorry, 2 credits per hour, right?
Yes, and it's measured by the millisecond. So
yeah, I know. Cool. Just to make sure that the call for feedback is on the same terms, if you like. The other question is, I've been looking at webhooks and I couldn't find examples that show, you know, what is happening on my side, on the receiving end, if you like, because I'm asking for a webhook on a folder, you know, data management, whether something was deleted from a folder, for example. And I saw some of the examples with ngrok being used in order to divert the traffic and so on. But I was wondering what is a reasonable setup, given the fact that, you know, there's some security issues, and whether I could do it using a cloud service such as Azure or, you know, AWS or Google Cloud App Engine, rather than exposing an endpoint on my network. Is
So,
there something to show that, to guide through this?
Yeah, so ngrok is actually just a way for you to emulate a server, right? When you are running localhost, you cannot expose your machine. So ngrok and similar tools will just emulate a server so you can test it, right? So in production, you'll not be using ngrok, you'll be using Azure or whatever, right? Now, yes, you have to expose an endpoint that we can call, and that's how webhooks works, right? You have an endpoint that we call. But inside the webhooks API, Siri, inside webhooks API, there is a way for you to sign the calls. So whenever you get a call back from us, you know that it's us. It's Autodesk. It's not some other faking system. So let me open up the documentation. So API reference, specification. Yeah. So yeah, tokens here, right? But that's the one. So here you specify a signature. So we know that whenever we call you, we add that token. So you know that it's Autodesk calling. It's not like a system trying to hack you, right? But any webhooks require an open endpoint to be called, right? So because those are different systems talking to each other. The way to prevent hacks is by adding a token like that.
Sure, that makes sense. But do you have is there an example in GitHub or one of your demos of something that is working on a, let's say, you know, the endpoint could be, I don't know, Express running on Node.js, for example, right? Listening on a specific port. Is there an example of that side of what's happening on that side, or the examples are just with the dealing with the registration and the listening and the, you know, the registering for a callback, if you like.
Yeah. So yeah, on the listening side, right? It's an endpoint, right? And I think the suggestion there is to use a queuing system. Now, I think maybe there is a confusion here on what is the difference between local and development, right? And actually, on your system, there is no big difference, right? It's just you are running on local or production, and what is the base path that you are passing there? So on our samples, we ask, we usually have our environment variable telling the webhooks base URL. That could be either local, could be either ngrok when you're doing locally, or azure.something or aws.something when you're running in the cloud. So that may get a bit too deep. We do have a few samples there, and actually all the samples are using that. So github.com, Autodesk Forge, and let me go here, webhooks. See, have we migrated the samples here?
Yeah, I cannot find it.
Yeah, but I think the samples are not actually webhooks. They are different things, right? Like issues, create, say, I think
there was that sample where actually you could subscribe to some folders and things like that, and that one could be deployed.
So this sample here is an example, right? So if I scroll down, there is environment variables. So that's a webhook URL, right? So if you're running locally, it would be something at ngrok, but if you're running on the cloud, will be your domain.com here, right? That's how you differentiate between local and live. But Jonathan, maybe
what is this example? It's what?
It's just one of them. Yeah. So this is receiving notification for new files and creating issues.
Okay.
Just as an example, but all of our samples will have this APS webhooks URL, right? So that's how we differentiate them. So maybe if we search for that, could be better. So you see all the samples that have that kind of environment variable there. So if the sample has that environment variable,
no, if you go back to that example, to that sample, in the README, to that very sample, in the README, you'll see that this one is based on top. This sample is based on the webhook sample. So if you click on that one, you will get a simpler one.
Yes.
And this one is
just a skeleton.
Kind of,
yeah. Just a skeleton showing how it works.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll put a link in the chat.
Yeah, thank you. Good point, Dennis. I think we haven't migrated this sample, so we have a test there. Yeah. All right. That helps.
Hey, Augusto.
Alex, how are you?
I have to ask again about design automation and making SVF1 translation for AutoCAD. Because that remove the date of Autodesk AutoCAD 22 engine is October 30. And this published shared activities are still pointing on this AutoCAD 22 version.
I did make that request. I didn't ask them. Let's see what happened there. Yeah, I know that it was to be the image migrate. Yes, it was there, but it was not completed. Why it have not completed? And you said that there is another one as well?
Sorry.
You said there was another issue.
No,
Yeah.
just
So
this
yeah,
deprecation
the
date.
activity is now in staging. It's been tested, right?
Cool. Okay, thank you.
So let me share the number with you here. So you probably have to ask if you start a support ticket, you need to reference to this number. So this is internal number, but you know that this is the internal tracking number for that. Yeah, I just share on the chat window.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank
So I see here
you.
that is testing. So it means that is in staging.
That's great. That's great.
So, yeah.
And
There was
maybe just a
Yes.
curiosity question. There are several shared activities starting by query, let's say query task processor. What is that about?
Yeah,
Just
so at
curiosity.
some point you have to do some cleanup there. Many of those activities are not meant to be public. Those are like used by Autodesk systems, so it was not meant to be external for everyone. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So I see that Moses is asking about design automation version. Yeah, so yeah, to 2024 and forward. So today, that call for feedback, Moses, that we mentioned on Dynamo, uses 2024. And once, if and when we decide for that to go in production, that will probably be using the Revit version that is available when we do that. So let's say have a new version next year, then we'll be probably be on that newest version. Yeah. So at the same way, there is a work to do to move Dynamo to move forward with Dynamo. So whatever Dynamo supports, then this design automation with Dynamo will support the same thing. Okay, so we are just on time. Let me share here again. And okay, so just on time. Again, thank you very much for joining. The next coffee break will be same link, same time in 2 weeks, November 1st. That is almost the week before AU. I think it's the 1 week before, 1.5 week before AU, and we'll have one coffee break at AU. So, but yeah, the next one will be very close. And again, thank you very much for joining today. If you're going to AU, hope to see you there. And yeah, if not, see you in 2 weeks. Thank you very much for joining. Right?
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye.
Bye.
Go.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.